my husband and I both wake up earlier. We start our work earlier. We end closer to when our kids get off school, get out of care. That is like an amazing wealth to us as a family. And it's something that I would say for the past 10 years, we haven't gotten. And so I feel like when I look at the future, I'm kind of seeing this chapter as a huge part of it.
I love talking about increasing your net worth. This is our barometer for wealth building success. Today, we're going to speak with an investor who has grown her family's net worth to around $500,000 by age 31. Nicole Stanley is our guest today. Nicole lives in Massachusetts with her husband, Jake, and their 3 kids. And when she's not building her family's wealth, she enjoys traveling, eating new foods, and experiencing new cultures. Welcome to the show, Nicole.
Andy, I'm so happy to be here.
I'm glad you're here, and thank you for offering to be transparent and helping people win on their net worth journey. Now, looking back, Nicole, what was your motivation for building your wealth in the first place?
So funny enough, when I was growing up, I feel like wealth was very on my mind. My parents were Puerto Rican Americans, and my dad was a software engineer for Microsoft in the early 2000s. And so if you can imagine, he was doing great income-wise, but that didn't always translate to what was going on in our home. And so I felt a ton of weird stress growing up where I'm like, we have this really nice lifestyle, but like my parents are always fighting about money. And I started to put the pieces together that like just how much money you made didn't mean that that would guarantee having no stress. And so I remember my dad telling me from a young age that the American dream was dead and that he was going to work till the day he died. And that was the first time that I thought, okay, I may have to figure this out, because if he can't do it as a software engineer for Microsoft, how the heck am I going to do it? Because I'm not going to be an engineer, right? Yeah. So fast forward to when I met my husband and we started planning our wedding. This stress really started to show its ugly head in my life. So I started to get regular panic attacks about money. And I remember looking at him and saying, hey, if we can't pay for this $10,000 wedding where our friends are bartending, our friends are making the cake, our friends are doing the flowers, how the heck are we ever going to afford a life? And so that was when we kind of realized this was affecting more than we wanted in our marriage. And we started getting invested in the personal finance community. So I became a total personal finance nerd, reading the books, taking the courses, listening to Dave Ramsey yell on the internet, right? Like I loved learning about personal finance. And so that really was the beginning of us wanting to change our financial life around. So my husband at the time, he was making around $40,000 as a church youth worker. And I had gotten an entry-level sales job right after college. So for the first 4 to 5 years of our wealth building journey, we made an average annual income of $56,000 a year. And it was with that income that we were able to get to our first $250,000 net worth over, what is it? Like between 2014 and 2021. So a really big change happened when we first got married. We had $30,000 worth of debt, and then we were able to pay that off in about 10 months. And then we focused on other things. So we focused on building our cash savings, starting to invest, and we actually bought our first live-in flip, which, when I say first, I mean only. So that was a really big part of us building our net worth initially. But after I went through that journey, I did not know that people like you and I existed, people who helped people with their finances. And so I actually started helping friends and family for free because I was so addicted to this concept of people taking control of their life through building their net worth, through saving. And that's how I'm still today, even 10 years later, helping people do the same thing in their life.
Oh, I love that journey. That's absolutely great. Now, a big thing you talked about was, because a lot of this ends up being some disciplined moves that you can make to build your wealth, but a lot of it ends up being emotional or psychological. Did you have some of those discussions with your husband, Jake, in the beginning to make that switch to say, hey, I'm reading these books or I'm listening to this stuff. This sounds pretty great. What were some of those conversations like at the beginning of your marriage to move things forward?
Yeah, so I would say that at the beginning, I'm happy that we opened this subject because we realized very quickly that we had separate views about money. So growing up in my household, we were very money vigilant or very money never shut up about it. So my parents were the type that always talked about money privately, right? So how much something costs must be nice. Oh my gosh, we can't afford that. You have to go to Walmart. We talked about money 24/7. And then when I met my husband, he grew up in a household where they were extremely money avoidant. talking about money was very taboo. It still is in their family. And so the two of us kind of had to decide, well, what do we want to do? And the great news is that neither one of us were very passionate about like, no, my family's way is the only way, because we both could see that there were positives and negatives to our upbringing. And I would say that like the financial stress that we went through in our early marriage was the opportunity to say, okay, well, what's the family culture we want to have? And I think that's actually probably one of the best gifts that we were given, because we may have never defined that.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I'm glad you guys took the time to sit down and have those conversations, because as busy parents, especially you've got 3 kids, sometimes we could just keep running and go to the next thing. And then we don't really take that time to sit down and talk about the dreams, the goals. What do we want to be as a couple? What do we want to be as a family? Now, I understand you guys started off at that $56K. Did you guys do things to build your income over time to help you hit this $500,000 milestone?
Yeah. So when I bring up that $250K, I like to keep it with the $56,000, because I know a lot of people feel like with an average income, it's very hard to make progress. But since then, my husband and I have both taken on different jobs and changed our careers so that we could further increase our income as a family. So I would say that as a family, we have doubled that income over the past, we've been married now for almost 9 years.
Yeah.
So our careers have taken different turns, but I would definitely say that the skills that we used at the beginning, which, when we didn't make as much, they're just as important now as we make more money, and almost like harder, I feel like, to implement, because it was easy to say no to things when we made less money, where now as our income has grown, I used to stay at home initially, then I came back to work. Like, I almost feel like those skills, like, you don't ever get to leave them by the wayside. You don't ever get to be like, you know what? And now I make enough money where I don't have to worry about it. It's like, no, it's still important now.
Especially as your family grows, for sure, because the costs continue to grow. When you have more humans to take care of, whether that's food, even if you're frugal, I mean, there's still a lot of required things to take care of children. Now, we talk about this net worth number, and it's important for us to kind of break that down. Let's start off with your assets. What assets do you have as a part of this near $500,000 net worth?
Yeah, so the assets I use to calculate my net worth, and I don't do it perfectly. I never include my business, which is, I think, a bad thing, but it probably is. But I include our primary home. So we purchased a home in Denver, Colorado when we moved there in 2021. And that is our only real estate asset at this time. So I include that Denver home. I include our 2 paid off cars because they're doing a good job. They're hanging out. I include our cash. So all the money that we have saved in our, checking account, savings account, whatever, all that is liquid cash available. And then I also include our investments, which is the heavy hitter when it comes to our wealth. So let's see, somewhere between 275 and 300 of our assets are in our investments. And most of that are in retirement accounts. So We're really big believers in the Roth IRA. We have made enough money to be in that Roth IRA category. So we have been taking advantage of that since our first was born. And that would be the biggest part of our net worth. Some might say a little too big, but we're kind of competitive people and we're really motivated by FIRE. So
I love that. Tell people about your general interest in FIRE. What would be your, I guess, grand plan with that if you guys were to have your financial way?
Yeah. So when I first got inspired by FIRE, I was very big into like retire early, where I think for some of us, I don't know if you feel this, Andy, like as you've gone through the FIRE movement, you've kind of been like, oh yeah, but also I can be on the FIRE journey and enjoy my life today. And so my husband and I have really focused on how can we create a life today that also has us excited for FIRE, but it's not like this desperate, like panting to get there. Like we're working our little tushes off. And so I am motivated by FIRE, I would say, because of the experience I've had in my family, where I've seen that kind of like hopelessness of somebody who, as they approach retirement, feels really down about it. And because I married somebody who wasn't in a initial like high income industry, my dad was very not so happy about that. So he spent a lot of time like driving me through the slums and telling me that if I married this person, I was going to live this way. And so I definitely think that my initial motivation was a little bit of a like to prove you wrong energy, and also this energy of like, hey, I can actually rebel against this concept of the rat race, the American rat race. And I can chart our own path so that we can feel safe. And I ultimately think that that helps me be a better mother because I'm able to be more present. I'm able to make freer choices. I'm able to make better memories with my kids. And I think that there is a very real benefit to knowing that even if you never invest another dollar, you're safe. Like, I think a lot of people get excited by the yachts and, the multiple houses and the quote unquote passive income, like all these buzzwords. But I think just as a woman, I'm so motivated by safety, and that safety can really get you through some tough times, and I think that that's ultimately the gift that a lot of people are looking for. And they don't always see FIRE as the way to get there. But if you're somebody who struggles with financial anxiety, like I did, I think FIRE and knowing where you are on that path is actually really beneficial because it can help you be confident.
Yeah, financial security can feel just as empowering as a yacht. I would say, if not more.
I would say way better.
Way more, exactly. So let's break down. Let's finish the assets category. You mentioned the investments. So your total for assets is what then? Because we want to do the math problem to see any liabilities you guys might have.
It's like $975.
$975. Okay, got it. Awesome. And then let's talk liabilities then. So do you guys, it sounds like I heard you say paid off cars a couple times. What liabilities do you have, if any, including the mortgage?
$470. And then our other liability at this time is, we just went through a cross country move very last minute. So we moved from Denver, Colorado to Buzzards Bay in Massachusetts because my husband's wife, I'm his wife, mother, has cancer, and we wanted to be near family. And so we strategically took on un smidgy de zero interest credit card debt to make this move happen in under a month, which was pretty crazy. But yeah, we have a plan to be, that credit card debt free before the end of this year. So that is a current liability that I have, which I hate looking at.
I understand. Well, you hate it enough to get rid of it real fast, knowing your path. I wish everything the best for mom on the side of Massachusetts. Best of luck.
Thanks.
With everything. Absolutely. Well, thank you for breaking that down for us to understand your net worth situation. I think this is a good learning opportunity for everybody watching to understand this breakdown and how it grows. A big part of what I'm seeing, Nicole, as far as wealth, is a lot of it's in investments and a lot of it's in your home. And that's not dissimilar to the majority of how people build wealth in this country. I understand you're also a business owner, and that's something that you're building as well. You mentioned you don't include that in your net worth, but maybe over time you would.
I think so. I think I'm just like a newbie who doesn't know how to calculate the worth of her business. Like,
I would be in the same category as you, my friend.
And do you know what I mean? Like, I just will look at my cash and be like, okay, there's cash, and then that's all I think about. But I'm like, oh, but I have employees and I have all these things, but I guess I'm just lazy.
Hey, you and I could figure it out together over time. Absolutely. Yeah. Let's talk about generational wealth plans for your kids. You guys are 31. Is Jake around the same age as you?
Yeah, he's 32. So
you guys are young 30s. Are you already thinking about generational wealth? If so, what are the ways that you're helping to plan for that in the future?
So one of the things that we're very behind on, which is why I listen to your podcast, is like how to teach kids about it, because so much of our journey has been, kind of my husband and I are the main characters, but now I have a 7-year-old and I have a 4-year-old, and like they're getting to the age where they can do more chores and have more responsibilities. And, just this summer, my husband and I were like, our 7-year-old isn't quite happy with just like no allowance, nothing. Like she wants to have some autonomy over her life. So I'm not the expert in how I'm going to teach her about that, but I do know that one of the things we focus on is like how we teach them mindset stuff about money. So we don't use the phrases, we can't afford that. We don't talk about wealthy people in a negative way. That's something both my husband and I are used to, is like, we would go to California a lot and you'd see these big houses by the water and it'd be so easy to say something like, must be nice. And instead of kind of giving that to our kids, we're very aware of what we say about money, how we help them make decisions. When we go on family vacations, giving them a budget for the souvenir they want to buy, making that something collaborative, watching them start to put pieces together of like, oh, well, if I have $15, that means, I can get X amount of toys instead of just one toy. But we've set up those investment accounts for them. But I'm going to be real, we have not, we have them set up, but they're not being allocated towards. So I know for me, I want to feel really good about the money they're getting. And then I also know that they're going to be a good steward of it, because I will say that like a hidden fear in my life is that like, I could just save for them all this money, but they'll just blow it if I don't teach them the right skills. And so I think I feel a lot more pressure about the skills than the money, but that doesn't mean the money isn't important.
I think that's a fantastic response, because that it's so true. If you give somebody something very difficult to manage and they don't have the knowledge of how to manage it, yeah, they're going to mess up. It's like if somebody said, hey, Andy, I've got this really expensive car I want you to go fix in the garage. Good luck. I'd be like, I have no knowledge on how to handle this thing. I'm totally going to mess it up. Same thing with giving your kids a bunch of money without the knowledge and the emotional strength to handle it. And it sounds like that's a big part of your journey and a big part of what you're talking about with your kids, and probably Jake, on a constant basis to help them move in the right direction. Tell people about your business, where they can connect with you, and maybe learn more about your services.
Yeah. So if you're somebody who's listening to this and maybe you connected with a lot of the beginning of my story, where you see yourself as somebody who feels like their money is stressful, like your financial stress is kind of everywhere in your life. It's at the grocery store, it's at your job, it's in your marriage. Like, if I can do anything for you during, while you're listening, it's for you to know that it is possible for something to change. And so whether or not you reach out to a financial coach or you go online and you buy a book, I want you to take the message that it is possible for your life to change, no matter what financial situation that you are in. I promise there is a path forward, but it first starts with you believing that there's a path forward. And if you, enjoy my perspective, my voice, whatever, please follow us on Instagram. We put out free financial content every single day, arise.financial.coaching. We're on TikTok. We have newsletters. We have freebies. We put on free workshops for people about investing. Like, I want to make your wealth building journey something that you look forward to. And if you feel like you want one-on-one help, book a call with me. It's free. We can talk about your life, talk about your stresses, and see if coaching is a fit for you.
Excellent. Yeah, reach out to her, everybody. This is fantastic information you're getting here, and talk about an open book who wants to help people. Nicole, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Andy, thanks for having me on.
If you're inspired to grow your net worth after hearing that awesome story, you should check out Empower's free net worth tracker. This is the same tracker that my wife and I use to grow our net worth from negative $50,000 to over $1 million in just 10 years. You can access that using the links below or click the link in our video description. If you want to get inspired to grow your net worth even more, check out this next video coming up.